We're now about to tune into Folkways FM for June 2023's Almanac. Currently moored somewhere near Creetown in southwest Scotland, where the crew have been enjoying trips inland to Galloway Forest Park and even apparently climbing up Merrick Mountain. So without further ado, let's try and pick them up. Very welcome to June 2023's Almanac, where we muse over the heavens and the hedgerows for the coming weeks ahead. June from the goddess Juno, wife of Jupiter and queen of the gods. A counterpart of the Greek Hera, Juno is goddess of marriage, childbirth and fertility. The word June appears to have the same root meaning as Junius or Ioventus, youth, which is related to words like juvenile and rejuvenate. Old English, era Litha, or first calm, the second calm being July, the second Litha. Manx, mean Sauri, Scots Gaelic, Intorkvius, Irish, Mehev, Welsh, Mehevin, Cornish, Mies Methevin. The last three, as your twitching ears no doubt picked up, sharing a Proto-Celtic root, Mehev, Mehevin, Methevin. Let's first open with a seasonally appropriate refrain from an English folk song regarding the cuckoo. The cuckoo is a pretty bird, she sings as she flies. She brings us good tidings and tells us no lies. She sucks the sweet flowers to make her voice clear, and she never sings cuckoo till summer draws near. After the opening, the song continues with a young woman, usually, though sometimes a young man, complaining of the inconsistency of the opposite sex and the pain of losing in love. Verses such as, "Come all pretty maidens, wherever you be, don't trust in young soldiers to any degree. They'll kiss you and court you, poor girls to deceive. There's not 1 in 20 that poor girls can believe." There's also an Irish folk song that uses a similar tune and starts with verses extolling the beauty of Bunclowdy, a town in County Wexford. And we find the third verse is the standard "Cuckoo is a pretty bird." The song Streams of Bunclowdy is sad and beautiful lyrically, and there's a fine recording from Luke Kelly of the Dubliners, which you'll find linked in the Almanac's show notes. I opened with thoughts of this nest-robbing bird this month, as it's an auditory symbol of the good weather. However, it's considered unlucky to hear it after Midsummer's Day. Yes, we are now, I don't know how, but we are fast moving towards the longest day of the year. Can you feel the energy in the hedgerows ramping up as you charge past them on your lunch break? There's a freshness, a certain lighter shade of green that burns out and gets dustier as we move through the summer. So enjoy the next few weeks as we, hurtle towards the sun's zenith. The Christian feast of St. John, commonly known as Midsummer's Day on the 24th of June, occupies much the same relationship with the solar cycle as Christmas Day. It represents the end of a solstice, the period in which the sun ceases to move for a short period. In response to the swelling of light and heat, foliage is now at its fullest before the time of fruiting approaches. It's no wonder this peak buzzing of life force was seen as a somewhat magical time to ancient Europeans, and the not so ancient too. This life force is yours to tap into right now. In the 4th century Acts of the Martyr St. Vincent, there's a description of how the pagans of southwestern France celebrated a festival by rolling a flaming wheel downhill to a river. And over 1,000 years later, a monk of Winchcombe on the edge of Gloucestershire referred again to the rolling of the wheel, but this time ascribed it to Midsummer's Eve, the evening before the Christian feast of St. John the Baptist. So we've got a link here, wedding Midsummer to this strange fiery wheel. And in the 16th century, the Protestant writer Thomas Neargorgus described it in detail, suggesting that it was common all over wider northern Europe on this night. At this time of year, you may enjoy our sister show Folkways 2 episodes on Midsummer, which you'll find linked in the show notes. If you woke up in Portishead, Bristol on the 1st of June, you saw the sunrise at 5 AM and set at 21:18, giving a chef's kiss day of over 16 hours there. Portrush, Northern Ireland, sunrise 4:54 and set at 21:55. And Perth, Scotland, sunrise 5:29 and set at 20:54. This month, the moon is at its fullest in the early hours of Sunday, June the 4th, so enjoy some moon gazing this weekend, and you can impress any friends you might be with by informing them in a sudden, authoritative fashion that June's moon is known as the Mead or the Horse Moon. There's also the Anglo-Saxon flower moon, as well as the rose moon, the last one being used across wider Europe. The moon will then be new again on Sunday, the 18th of June. The constellations of Cygnus, Hercules and Lyra dominate the night sky at the moment. For early risers this month, Saturn and Jupiter will grace the pre-dawn sky. Saturn rises at around 2 AM at the beginning of the month, followed by Jupiter at around 3:20ish. On the 21st, the solstice, take a look at a nice conjunction of Venus and the crescent moon, positioned low in the evening sky. After sunset, watch them emerge as the sky grows dark. You might also be able to see Mars in the western sky. Now down to the hedgerows. There is lots of flowering this month. All the roses. I've been watching the roses in my garden tentatively peeking out over the past weeks, as well as yarrow, honeysuckle, red campion, goat's beard, bramble flowers, white bryony, and cottage garden and hedgerow favourites, those beautiful foxgloves. For foraging, June is the month of the elderflower, primarily a tree of scrub wood edges and hedgerows. Famous for its use in elderflower wine, it is best picked ASAP. To look out for gooseberries, marsh samphire, hedge garlic, wild thyme, and wild strawberries, amongst others. In this month's location spotlight, we're highlighting a real hidden gem, Luxulyan Valley in Cornwall. I used to live in Cornwall and I was recommended this valley by a local. This place is what I'd call a bit of a secret, and even in the height of summer, you'll often only see a handful of other people the whole time you're there. The valley just north of St Austell is both a beautiful natural woodland and a fascinating heritage site. Its steep sides stretch for around 2 miles along the banks of the River Par from Luxulyan to St Blaise. The Cornish name for the valley is Glyn Gwernan, meaning Alder Tree Valley. This refers to the ancient broad-leaved woodland that is home to a range of wildlife, including over 40 species of fern and various other flora and fauna of conservation importance. Whilst there's little doubt as to the valley's natural beauty, what makes the place special are the decaying remains from when this was an important part of the Cornish mining industry. And even in the earliest days of Cornwall's mining, Luxulyan was important as a source of wood for charcoal, which was used to smelt the locally mined tin and copper. Most of the industrial remains that are scattered throughout the valley are the work of Joseph Treffery, including the stunning viaduct with its enormous arches, which you can walk under or head to the top and cross over like a bridge as you marvel at this piece of 19th century engineering. Throughout the valley, you can also find the remains of the horse-drawn tramroads, where carts loaded with stone, china clay, copper ore, lime, and coal once ran. The rails are gone, but you can still see the lines of granite blocks that supported them. There's a slightly strange feeling walking along these old tracks. And it's this combination of the lush valley with these rusting ruins which gives this place a certain atmosphere. Perhaps it's the relative quiet that now pervades compared to what it once would have sounded like here. I'm quite a sensory person, and when I see these bits of machinery, my mind can easily conjure these bustling scenes this ground would have known not that long ago. There's also the element, as it were, of nature reclaiming a space. I don't say that with enjoyment as such, rather neutrality. If you're interested in folklore, then you're interested by definition in the human story, not just these empty remarks about how pretty a natural space might look, for example, with all those pesky humans out the way. It's a fact that this valley would have provided much needed work and security for many local families. There's also a note, a bit of what we might call a vibe to this place. Certain locations seem to have rather strong personalities or a presence, we might say. Luxulyan Valley certainly has this. I won't say any more than this, but I'll allow you to discover its particular personality for yourself if you find yourself in literally this neck of the woods. There are 2 small car parks at either end, but if you're on foot, which I might actually recommend more, you can enjoy a scenic train ride to Luxulyan Village, and then you can make your way on foot to the start of the valley. Be sure to support the charming local village shop there, where you can grab a coffee and also a map of the valley. Your assignment this month is to think about the upcoming sun's zenith, which we've discussed, and how you might want to mark it. Whether you focus on the solstice, the 21st, which falls midweek on a Wednesday, or the traditional Midsummer, the 24th, which is the weekend. In our busy lives, it's very easy for other people's plans to somehow become our plans. Do you ever notice that? And before you know it, you've got no time left. So why not now get out your planner or your phone and think about cornering off a bit of time that particular week to mark Midsummer, from a walk with friends or planning to go somewhere solo that you've never been before. Even if nothing else permits, just waking up early to have a sunrise cup of coffee with the birds. Just start mulling over a plan to do something enjoyable under that midsummer sun. It's been said on both the Almanac and the Folkways show itself, but one of the best things you can do for your mind is to start actively engaging with the seasons. If you're not sure where to start, and maybe that sounds a bit woolly, honestly, just head out on a stroll at these turning points of the year. Bring a sausage roll, maybe a litre of orange squash, nothing fancy required. It makes me laugh, all these plastic shamans. I think that's a term that Fiona Edgar coined, so credit to her there, it's a good one. These folk, often on Instagram, now offering all these obscenely expensive retreats suddenly. Have you noticed that? You basically pay absurd sums of cash for the pleasure of their company for a few days. And I'm absolutely not saying there isn't value in spending time with like-minded others or being immersed in a particular spiritual or religious practice, certainly not. But perhaps you shouldn't have to remortgage your house to pay for it. Sometimes it feels like people's own innate spirituality is being sold back to them. Well, here's a bit of wisdom, and baby, you can have this for free. You're a child of God. You were born of this soil and you'll return back to it. This is your home. You belong here. You are connected to this land, and nobody can ever take this away from you. It is yours, this connection. It is yours. You don't need to pay someone over the other side of the world hundreds or thousands of pounds to tell you this. It's in your blood, it's in your breath. If you want to feel connected to the land, in inverted commas, just start bowling around your own backyard. Talk to your own grandparents if they're still with you, and see if there's anything you can do to help your local environment. For example, almost every day I seem to be picking up rubbish on my walks. That's a surefire way to start feeling connected with the land very quickly, I can tell you. Sorry if I'm being a bit salty. I had a bit of a rubbish day. Do you ever have those days where things back to back just go wrong in succession, and quite big things? The last thing that went wrong is I was in town and my bank card stopped working. My first thought was, oh God, I've been defrauded and it's been blocked or something. So I called my bank and it was all fine, but it turned out the chip on the card had just stopped working. And this was an issue because I therefore couldn't get home, and I really needed to get home. And it was at this realization I just started looking around me like, oh, okay, what's going on? And then I said to myself, you're a child of God. You were born of this soil and you'll return back to it. This is your home. Love you. Bye.